Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Sens Hour podcast. We are joined again with Derek Lee from Sens. Thank you for joining today, Derek. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good today. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, a little special treat with Ian Mendes is going to be joining us around 10:30 today, so that'll be a nice little treat for the listeners and for us.
Absolutely, one of the very best at doing this. So I'm looking forward to talking to Ian later.
Yeah, I talked to him right before around quarantine started, and my computer lagged. It just kind of shut down, right? Like it crashed right as I was exporting the file, and I lost it, and it was the most frustrating day of my life. So being able to talk to him again is going to be exciting. But we got some big news for the Sens. Connor Brown and Chris Tierney have signed with a matter of weeks, because last time we talked, which I believe was last Wednesday, Connor Brown was still up in the air, and then Tierney, obviously. So, great contracts, I find. A 3-year deal for Brown, just over, I think, 3.8 his AAV, something like that.
I think he's at 3.6, so pretty close.
Yeah, and then Tierney is 2 point some, and then 4.2.
Yeah, so he's at 3.5 AAV.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic deal for Ottawa, and I think it's a good job by Dorian to kind of get these stuff done before arbitration.
Yeah, I like the short-term deals as well for these guys. I think we kind of know that they're not necessarily going to be core members of the team. I think maybe Connor Brown has a chance when his deal expires. But I think with the center depth, for sure, Chris Tierney is unlikely going to be a long-term Ottawa Senator. So I like the 3-year term, the 2-year term. I think that's the right term for these players.
Yeah, and I mean, and kind of lost through all of it. Schlappick signed a 1-year, 2-way contract the other day as well.
And also took like the most epic contract signing picture ever. Like, I don't know if you got to see the picture.
Well, with the flow?
He had like I think it was an elk or something in the background. Like he was in his beautiful house wherever.
Oh, yeah.
And he had like this elk in the background, and he had some flow going on. He had the mustache, like just a really cool picture.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that means Yaros is officially the last RFA needing to be signed. And obviously, I feel like for the Senators, no news is good news. There wasn't really talk about Connor Brown or Tierney kind of contracts. So who knows? It could pop up today that Yaros has signed probably a 1-year, 2-way contract again. Kind of something similar to Schlappick.
Yeah, I think with the right side being pretty full now, especially with the acquisition of Zub and Josh Brown, and they've got Goodbranson there, I think it makes sense that Yaros is going to probably sign to a 2-way deal. I was kind of on the fence thinking that maybe they would give him a 1-way deal this year, but I don't think he's quite established himself just yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think if you talk to a lot of people in the organization, we'll ask Mendes this if it's true, but I've seen a lot of people talk like he kind of stalled. Last year they wanted a little bit more from him. He showed it in Belleville, but he suffered an injury and he kind of wasn't the same after that injury, and they wanted more and they just didn't get it. So I think they're a little bit worried about, has this player stalled and is he going to project to be, an NHL right side defenseman? And a 1-year deal, someone gets hurt, that's your chance to kind of slot in, battle out a guy like Zub in training camp. So I like Yaros. I think he's one of our better prospects, and he has been the last couple of years. But as an organization, you can't rely solely on this guy having a bounce back year.
Yeah, I like, as you said, I like Yaros too. I like his physicality. He's a player that is definitely not afraid to throw a big hit. Um, and he has glimpses. Like I remember a couple of brief glimpses last year offensively where he's shown some real creativity. I think it was a nice slap pass. I want to say Bobby Ryan tipped it in, but I could be wrong there. But he just had one play in particular that I remember that it looked like, whoa, who is this guy? Like he's sending a beautifully timed slap pass, like fake slap shot, slap pass, finding the guy in the high slot for the tip in, and it was a beautiful play. And yeah, that was kind of like, wow, Christian Yaros. All right, you can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember he was the number one D man in Belleville for a while when, Lajoie got hurt and Branstrom was up here because we had our rash of injuries. And he was just kind of manning the fort. And he kind of got, I went down to watch a Belleville game last year. I think it was against Milwaukee. We ended up losing the game. But when it was him and Lajoie with Logan Brown, Batherson, and Formenton on the ice, they just all five of them on the ice, they just kind of controlled the play. And I liked what I saw from Yaros down there. He came up here, he had a short stint, liked what I saw. I think he can take a big step. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in Belleville. I'm expecting him to be if he does sign, to announce that he's being loaned out to some team in Europe for the time being.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the players, especially the players who are on that cusp of potentially cracking the NHL lineup, but not necessarily going to get that opportunity. It gives them a chance to kind of have that head start ahead of training camp, and we're seeing so many of our prospects kind of take off overseas right now and just put up some phenomenal numbers.
Yeah, Rudolph Balcers comes to mind. He's I think since he's come over, him and Abramov have just kind of started to light the lamp a little bit
Yeah.
when it comes to playing overseas.
Yeah, Abramov went. Abramov's playing a much tougher league as well. He's playing in the top league out there, and he is putting up some phenomenal numbers. And it really makes you wonder if this is an NHL player this year. Like, just the fact that he's so dominant, and he's also playing on the weakest team out there. Like, that team was on a major losing streak until they got him. And then as soon as they got him, he was their number one player, and he was just providing so much offense for them.
Oh, 100%. And I think he scored. He had 2 goals in his debut and has kind of been on a point streak since. Yeah, he
Yeah,
has
I
six
want to
points
say,
in 4 games, according to Elite Prospects. Five
yeah,
goals and 1 assist.
5 goals and an assist in what, 6 games?
4 games.
In 4 games. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wild. Wow.
And according to Elite Prospects, Balsers, I don't know how true this is. I feel like they might be a little bit behind on it. But Balsers has 4 points in 3 games out in Norway. 1 goal, 3 assists.
Yeah, now that's kind of expected, I think, for Rudy Balsers, just because he's playing in a lesser quality league against some lesser competition, whereas a guy like Abramov is playing in the top league. And also, we should point out Eric Brandstrom. I think he just had a nice goal. I think it was yesterday. He put up another point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a point and an assist, a goal and an assist the other night, or something like that. I think like the fact that the Balsers is 23, Abramov is 22, and Brandstrom's 23. I think we forget how young these people, like these players, are, and that like they need a little bit of time to develop. But he has 5 points in 5 games, according to Elite Prospects with SCL Tigers in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And that point total should increase because apparently Marco Rossi's heading out there to join on a loan because he signed with Minnesota. And that just adds to the jersey list that I need because I need a Rossi because I have the 67s one behind me.
Yeah.
I need a new Ryan one. The fact that he's going back to his 54 that he wore in his rookie year with Anaheim is kind of nice. But I need a new Detroit jersey. I'm going to get a Ryan. And I also have to get a Batherson before the season starts.
Speaking of jerseys and numbers, how weird is it going to look if Josh Norris decides that this year he's going to rep the number 9?
Honestly, I wouldn't be upset. But I don't like with Good Branson going to 44. I don't like no numbers are off limits. Um, but it's going to be interesting because Norris has worn a bunch of numbers throughout his playing career. He's worn 37, he's worn 14, he's worn 9. And I think he's one of those guys where I don't think numbers matter.
Yeah, he'll just be happy to be there.
Yeah, I think it's a number. I think Belleville has a thing where like no one's above like the goalie. Like the goalie has the highest number. Because like over the last couple of years, like I haven't seen players wear like 59 in Belleville. I don't think if you go back last year, I don't remember anyone over like 40. Everyone was from like 40 and below, and the goalies was the 40. So I think AHL numbers matter, but like Formanton, for example, I think he wore 59 with London, and he's only wearing 10 with Belleville because he has no choice. Because Batherson wore 7 his first year in Belleville and then switched to 19. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me too is that all their numbers are different in the American Hockey League than the NHL, which is sometimes they're just not available in the NHL. But it's interesting that for the most part, I think their numbers are different.
Yeah, I mean, I think because even when, for prime example, when Shabbat was in Belleville, and this is one of the discussions that like numbers, he wore 5 in St. John's, he wore 5 for Team Canada, he wore 5 in Belleville. When CC left, I was like, oh, maybe Shabbat kind of switches to 5. Clearly 72 has kind of grown on him, but it's interesting that like I don't remember anyone recently who, when they've gone to Belleville, have stayed the same numbers. Maybe Colin White, maybe when he was sent down after his injury. But even then, I don't think when he came into the league or came into the organization, he didn't wear 36 for Belleville. He wore I think he wore 16 or something like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting storyline. I don't know, what the backstory is on that, but I want to say, does Logan Brown wear 21 in Belleville and 21 in Ottawa?
I think he wears 22 in Belleville.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He
okay.
either wears 20 because I'm pretty sure Nick Paul wore 21 his
Right.
in Belleville, and then Logan Brown wore 22. But I think I'm gonna quickly look that up because I can't remember.
Yeah, that's one for me that I was thinking, man, I swear I seen because I've watched a few Belleville games as well, and I thought I seen Logan Brown wearing 21, but
I think he switched this year. I think he went to 21 because there's pictures with him in 22 in Belleville, but I can't remember if he switched to 21 maybe this year when
Nick Paul was promoted.
yeah I know because because Paul wore 21. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I'm gonna go to their roster real quick. But yeah, I think Brandstrom is the only one that I can think of because he wears 26.
I thought he was 17, Brandstrom, in Belleville. No?
I think he was when he originally got there.
Oh,
but I think when he heading into the last season, he switched to a 26. Because Schlappick is 14, but he's I know Logan Brown was 22 last year.
All right.
Yeah, Parker Kelly was 47. So okay, they have changed it a little bit where they've been able to go above 40, which is nice. Yeah, no, Branstrom was 26. And then Yaros was 15 instead of his ridiculously high number in Ottawa.
83 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with Wolanin. When he's in Belleville, he was 24, and when he was up here, he was 86.
Yeah, I would say with Wolanin, he definitely preferred 24, especially now that he's switched to it.
Yeah, it's funny because people were so surprised that he switched to 24, but there was a piece out by Belleville, I think in like January, where they're talking about jersey numbers, and he said that he was going to switch to 24 next season when he was a full-time member because he's on a one-way contract. So he's like, I'm going to switch to 24 next year. And
Yeah, and
then
it's funny, like sometimes they just don't even have the choice, right? Like it's the team like provides you with this number, and as a rookie or someone just entering the league, you're not going to be like, no, I want this number. So
unless
yeah,
you're,
you
Stutzel.
oh yeah, if you're Stutzla, you could change 3 times before you get in the league.
Yeah, clearly. I feel bad for anyone who bought an 88 jersey.
Well, it was nice of the team. Like the team posted that they would do what they can if you email the team. If it's an official jersey and you email the team, they will do what they can to switch the number over and the name. Because a lot of people went with the dotted U, like
Yeah,
the
the amulet or whatever.
yeah. I like that. Like personally, I like that look, but Stutzla is going to go with the like the American spelling of it.
Honestly, I love the 18. The 18 looks a lot sharper than the 88 personally on the jerseys. Maybe it's because it just kind of gives me like Hosa reminders. It's just like I see the 18 and I'm just like Hosa.
Yeah, I love the number. I liked 88 just because I thought, that's a pretty damn confident move. A kid coming in who is being compared to Patrick Kane, coming in and saying like, yeah, I'll take these comparisons seriously. I'll throw on the number 88. But of course, there was the whole, controversy that he
Uh,
probably wasn't aware of, and when he was made aware, he switched over to
yeah,
number 8.
the
And 8,
Hitler
right?
thing.
Yeah,
Honestly, personally, that kind of it bugs me because like the only reason why it's an issue is because he's German,
yeah.
and I understand, but like you know Eric Lindros, no one complains. Patrick Kane, no one complains. I feel like it's one of those things where like I don't think we have to worry about that with this kid.
It's a hockey jersey number. Like, I mean, we're overthinking it big time and overanalyzing it. But you know what? Good on Tim Stutzla for, probably finding out and then making the switch to
Yeah,
number 18.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him wear 88. I'm pretty sure he's wearing 18 or 8,
Just 8, yeah.
just 8 with Germany. So when it was like, he'd go to 88, kind of threw me through a loop. I figured he would just go to 18 because it was available. Not a huge jump from 8 to 88 like that. And I mean, you're not going to get compared to anyone besides Hosa with 18. And that's
Yeah,
not a bad comparison either.
no.
But honestly, like since we're talking about numbers and jerseys and whatnot, these reverse retros. I'm assuming you've seen the leaks of the Pittsburgh and the Philly, the Vegas one, and the Wild Wing orange ducks. Every team's going to have it. They haven't said if every team's going to have it this year or every team's going to just have it released over the next couple of years. What jersey? Because I'm a believer that the O logo's dead. From everything I've heard, everything I've seen, the ownership doesn't like the O logo. It doesn't resemble their organization. It's a previous organization. And they haven't stopped using the 3D. Like the 3D is still kind of in circulation when it comes to merch and whatnot. Where do you think if you were to do a reverse retro, which one would you like to see?
Oh man, if I was to do it, like personally, I love the O logo, but like you said, the organization probably doesn't value that. So if we're discounting the O logo, I mean, the only one for me that I really like is the 2D logo that they're already using. So could they make the 3D logo look all right on this, whatever this gimmicky reverse retro thing that the NHL is doing? I guess so. Like, I'd be curious to see what it looks like on a different stripe pattern, and I would imagine it would be a red jersey, just provided that they have a black and a white. But they already have a red jersey, and it's not really retro if you're going with the 3D logo. Like they just used it last year, so
Yeah,
it's an interesting topic. Personally, I would want to see a red version of the O logo that isn't the red version that they just had.
Yeah, I hate the red version that they had. I hate the silver out. It looks so bad.
Yeah, they kind of wrecked it. Like they had so much potential with that jersey,
I
and
think it.
what Belleville did. Like Belleville's jersey looks fresh and great with the red and the B, and in a very similar style to the Ottawa red jersey, but Ottawa kind of ruined it.
I think it's because I think this is where the NHL kind of messed up because they wanted something because it was the 100th anniversary, right? So they wanted something to commemorate that, and they were using a lot of like that silver colorway to kind of to promote it, right? They were using like the silver for the 100th year, and then Ottawa was probably like, okay, well, what kind of way can we represent 100 years of Ottawa hockey? And I think they were like, oh, we'll use the old logo, and then we'll make it silver to kind of represent the silver seven.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like it makes sense, but it just the execution of the jersey was awful.
Yeah, it sounds good on paper, right? Like you're doing it for the right reasons, but unfortunately the jersey looks like crap. So you
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
miss.
personally, I would just like them to reverse the black one with like do a red with the black stripes
Yeah,
and black lettering with a white outline on it. I think that would be great because we've never seen a red jersey with the 2D logo on it. I think we were robbed of that when they went to the 3D logo in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I would just love to see a red 2D logo jersey.
that would be phenomenal. And again, if they're into making money, which who isn't, I think that would be a hot seller if they did it right. Again, you know, there's probably several different ways that they could kind of rep something like that, but if they just kept to the standard kind of, with the black format, just switching it over to the red, I think it would look phenomenal.
100%. Or they bring back the Senegoth as a red version because I know that a lot of people have been bringing that one up for a Sens retro reverse look. And I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it would look weird in a red jersey.
Yeah, I think that logo too is kind of expired. Like, I think, at the time it was pretty cool. I remember liking it at the time as a kid. But now when I look at it, it just doesn't really look like a professional NHL logo. Um, but it's something different. If they wanted to do something different, this whole thing is something different. It's kind of gimmicky in my opinion, um, but it's cool. And I mean, they've got to make revenue. They've got to make money in some sort of unique way. And I guess this is one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, I much prefer the coming out with like a retro look because I think some of them, like Pittsburgh's, looks pretty cool, but I don't know. I feel like they should have just let people go back to this like just a retro look. I don't think this reverse retro thing is smart. Like just let them go back to like an actual retro jersey.
Yeah, instead of reversing the colors
Yeah,
format or whatever they're doing. And the
something that
Pittsburgh one is the just the lettering, right?
yeah, the word mark that I
White,
don't. Yeah,
black.
but I mean to be fair though, I think that was one of those jerseys that people wanted in the 90s and they just never got. And they're like, hey, well, we'll come out with this. And it's better, in my opinion, than any of the other alternates that Pittsburgh has really come out with over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I kind of just like Pittsburgh's home and away jerseys. Like they went back to their kind of classic look, and I think that looks great. But yeah, the blue, is it the all blue one?
Yeah, that they wore in like '08, the '08 outdoor game.
Yeah, to me that's a huge miss. Like it just doesn't look very good. And then you got the goalie who's got his setup on geared to the black and orange, and you've got blue jerseys on, so it just looks wacky.
Yeah, I never. I mean, the jerseys look nice as like a one-time use, and I'm glad they've kind of just kept it as a one-time use. But I want them to bring back the RoboCut. If there's one jersey that like I wish the league would bring back, or a team would be bring back, would be that RoboCut, like Robo Penguin jersey with like the
Oh, I know what you're
gradient.
talking about now. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
like
cool. Yeah, that needs to make a comeback. You're right.
I
I
think
think now is the time to make that comeback for that jersey.
that and the Lady Liberty are the two jerseys that I want to see make a comeback into the NHL.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a hot ticket. The Rangers jersey, that thing is phenomenal. That would be one of the best.
I wish they would just like. It's funny how like I remember, even though I was like a kid, I still remember how much people hated a lot of the '90s jerseys. They were like, "Oh man, they're tired, they're boring," and now 15 years later, uh, everyone's like, let's go back to it.
Everything old is new again.
Yeah, because I remember when Reebok took over in '07, and people were so ecstatic for this fresh new look, and that the teams are going to get a revamp, they're going to get a remodel, and now you're looking back and you're like, man, nothing has changed since then, and it's nice to go back and have like a fresh set of looks for people.
Yeah, and I wonder, if this generation if we flash forward to 10 or 15 years from now, the 3D logo that everyone like hated for multiple years, I wonder if we come to a time where we're like, oh, the Sens need to bring the 3D logo back because that was memories of, Eric Carlson and Mark Stone and, whoever the big Senators were at the time wearing that jersey.
Yeah, and I mean, I still think it's funny because I remember everyone hating the 2D logo when they officially switched to the both jerseys as the 3D. I remember everyone being like, "Yo, the 2D logo is ugly. Like it's old, it's dated, it needs a revamp." And like we like the 3D logo. And over the years, people are like, "Man, this 3D logo is boring and it's plain, and we don't do anything with it." And then they came out with the O logo and it made it even worse because everyone's like, "Oh my god, the O logo is so much better than the 3D logo." And then they started teasing with Alfredson's retirement. They started teasing uh, the
Yeah,
2D logo again, and then people were like, "Oh my god, just bring it back."
yeah, exactly. And the same thing could happen. Like it could all just come full circle, and we're right back where we are, hoping that the 3D logo comes back, or maybe they make something new. Who knows?
Just a full on like rebrand,
Like an
like
actual, yeah,
yeah, name, logo, colors, everything.
yeah. Hopefully, they're still in Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, I think they will be. I know there was a report the other day that came out saying that the league thinks that there could be a couple of teams that if they can't survive the next 2 years, they might be relocated, and like Quebec, Houston, and KC are kind of the cities that have popped up as potential relocation areas.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think Ottawa is one of those teams.
No, and I hope not. I hope we're not just being kind of in our bubble and kind of ignoring that, but hopefully things will stabilize over the next couple of years. And I know Melnick's fragrance product is doing well now. From what I've heard, it's like #1 in Europe or something. So that's something new that he has that will hopefully generate some money for him. Um, and that's all we can really hope for right now. I don't think anyone's going to buy the team. So, um, as much as people talk about wanting a new owner here, I don't know how realistic that is at this time.
I
So
mean,
we have to hope Melnick does better.
Melnick doesn't. I mean, I think we have to give Melnick credit. He obviously has put in the money, like put his money where his mouth is at this point. But I also like he doesn't need to sell. If the league's not forcing him to sell, there's no serious buyers. According to Forbes, it's valued at $445 million. You're gonna have to put in a substantial offer, and he's in no place to sell. He doesn't feel like he needs to sell, so why is he gonna sell?
Yeah, and he's probably looking forward to that Seattle expansion money too. So,
No, 100%.
so why sell now?
And
If he is sell, it'll be after he gets that money.
yeah, and I mean, will he sell the team and the arena, or will he just sell the team? Because that's something that is also because he owns the arena. It's not like it's a city-owned arena and he's just renting it out. He owns the arena, so if he can just sell the team and be like, "I'll sell you the team for this amount, but I'm going to keep the land and the arena. So you're going to have to find yourself a new place to play, or I'll sell you the team and then you can rent out the arena from me."
Right. So he's still making money from that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he has all the leverage when it comes to talks because he owns the arena, and that's the biggest. Like if he doesn't own the arena, he probably saves a little bit more money. Probably doesn't save as much money, and he's not in as much leverage to sell as he would if he didn't.
Right. And the interesting piece to the arena too I don't know if you read up on it, but Melnick made an announcement, I think the other day, about wanting to build a new arena, but not downtown, in Canada, right beside the other arena. What do you make of that?
See, I don't think Canada is a bad place. I honestly, I know I joke about it a lot, and it makes sense because if you're out in Orleans and you have a young family, if you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, you're not coming out on a Thursday night game to watch the Senators. No matter how much you want to, it's not happening. So I don't think the location kind of sucks, but it's also the demographic of Ottawa, where a lot of young families, no one's going to go all the way out to Canada on a Thursday night when their kids have to go to school the next morning.
Yeah, and I think that that's the funny part about that statement. It's just like the arena, I don't think is the problem at all. Like you can make renovations and fix up the arena and make it look really good. It's where it's located. That's the problem. So it's just interesting that his idea of a fix was building a new arena right beside the other arena.
Yeah. Anyways, we have Ian Mendes waiting in the waiting room, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have him on with us, and we'll ask him what he thinks about the arena situation going on in Canada.
Hello, bonjour, hello, hi, heya, and privyet, hockey fans. Welcome to the Europuck podcast, the show where two Brits talk all things European hockey as part of the Hockey Podcast Network. If you want to keep updated on all of the latest news, scores, or standings from across the European hockey world, you want to get some insight from some very interesting guests discussing their stories with hockey and how the sport grows around in Europe in different interesting places, or if you want to keep updated with all of the leagues across Europe that are either playing, have been suspended, cancelled, delayed indefinitely, then do check out our latest episodes of the Europuck podcast every Friday as part of the Hockey Podcast Network. We have a YouTube channel, the Europuck Podcast, and you can listen to us wherever else you get your podcasts. So check us out every Fridays, and we'll see you there, folks.
And we're back. That was a nice little promo for the Europuck Podcast, part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Great for European prospects. Honestly, they actually just had an interview with one of the heads of Israel Hockey. So head on over, check that out if you want to know more about international hockey. But we are proud to introduce Ian Mendes, TSN 1200 voice of the Drive 2 to 6 on TSN 1200 in Ottawa. Thank you for joining us, Ian. How are you doing today?
Guys, I'm doing great. How are both of you?
I'm good. It's a gloomy morning in Ottawa, but that's fall weather, right?
It's not. You get that. And today was kind of the first day that there was like legitimate snow on the ground. God. Man, it was. It's depressing. It's gone now, but it's that depressing. I'm not a fan of pre-Halloween snow.
Yeah, I agree on that.
It always kind of snows or rains on Halloween, and it's like the worst thing. You're taking your kids out trick-or-treating, and you're either going to get snowed on or rained on, and you've got to like pull the car up instead of actually walking, and it kind of ruins Halloween. So I really hope it can snow all at once right now, but just hope that Halloween day we get some nicer weather.
Yeah, I've always said this, and it's great that Halloween's on a Saturday this year. I think that's awesome. Like, I wish it was always on a Saturday. Wouldn't it be perfect for us in Canada if Halloween was exactly 1 month earlier, like say September 30th? Like the costume options, you wouldn't have to, Spider doesn't have to wear a parka, all that stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. I agree on that 100%. If we had even if it was like early October, like the first weekend in October, it would work perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Anything but this. Anything but end of October. But listen, I know you guys didn't get me on here to do a referendum on Halloween.
Hey, man, honestly, it's fine. I understand. I mean, I know it's a little bit off topic, but isn't Halloween canceled in Ontario? I mean, I don't have anyone who goes trick-or-treating, so I'm not really following up on that, but I know it's kind of a big news for a lot of parents who have kids where they're getting mad that, trick-or-treating has been canceled, but dance studios have been opened up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like for months they've been telling us stay outside, wear a mask, practice social distancing. And I kind of feel like you can do all of those things on Halloween, can't you? Like, I think you can. I think we're smart enough and we're kind of well versed enough in social distancing. We could do it, but they've told us shut her down. I think there's some pockets of the province that are okay, but certainly in Ottawa, they've told us it's a no-go, and it's disappointing. I'm lucky; like my kids are a bit older; they're both teenagers now, so they're not into that trick or treating. I just feel bad for anybody who's got a kid kind of like 10 and under that won't get that opportunity.
Yeah, and for me, I'm up in Muskoka, so for me, trick or treating is not canceled. I have a 9-year-old girl, so she's really looking forward to trick or treating. So thankfully, I'm, I guess, far enough away from all the numbers rising that we can still go door to door.
You're lucky there, because I know a lot of people in Ottawa are upset they can't. But Ian, we were talking about it before you came on, before the break. What's your take on the arena situation going on, and with the Melnick situation as a whole right now? He's kind of put his money where his mouth is with some of these signings. Do you think that he's kind of making amends with the fan base, or is it still a long ways to go for him?
I do think it's a long way to go, and I think it's a journey of 1,000 miles. I like to say a journey of 1,000 miles sometimes begins with a single step, right? And so I think he's got 1,000 miles to go. I think all of us who have covered this team and have watched this team know there's a disconnect between the fan base and the team. Anybody who says otherwise is fooling themselves, right? Like, so we can all agree that there's a disconnect. So how do you bridge the gap? You sign Evgeny Dadonov. I think that's pretty good. You sign Matt Murray, and we can talk about whether that's too much money, but isn't it refreshing to talk about Ottawa overpaying a guy for once? So look, that part of it, it's fine. But to sit here and tell you that after signing those two guys, and maybe they'll do a couple of other things in the weeks ahead, to say that the bridge is gapped, I think is foolish. I don't think it is, and I think it takes time. The relationship between a fan base and a sports team, it's a precious entity. I think once you mess around with that, it takes a long time to kind of get consumer confidence back. It's not going to come overnight. It's not going to come with, hey, let me just get a Timmy Stützle 18 jersey and it's all good. It's going to take a couple more years of showing us that this is what you're doing. This is what you're committed to. And so I like it. I hope everybody understands that's looking at this from outside, like how much people love the Ottawa Senators, how much the two of you are a great example of how much people love the Ottawa Senators. I get a little bit disappointed when you see people say, move them to Quebec City. It's like, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what these guys and girls who have cheered for this team have been through. Understand it's been hell to be an Ottawa fan the last 5 years or 3 years or whatever. So this thing is a long, long process that I'll tell you, I like some of these moves that they've done. I think that's going to help bring some fans back, but let's not sit here and act like that the gulf has been shortened and that it's all here we go. Everyone's super excited.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there, Ian. I think there's still a long way to go in terms of getting everyone back, and he can do himself some favors if he just kind of stays out of the media and lets other people handle it. I'm curious. We were just talking, Shane and I, about this arena situation. Melnick came forward and said that his plan is to build a new arena, if he can't get one downtown, to build a new one right beside the CTC. What's your take on that?
This is the first I've ever heard of an arena issue in Ottawa, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. You know what? Like, I read that article, whatever that was, last week or earlier this month, and I was like, wait, what? Like, and I think it's the same feeling that we all had when LeBreton fell apart. Whenever that was, I apologize, I'm losing track of the timeline of this, but whatever, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when LeBreton fell apart, and then the Senators were like, you know what, we don't need this. It's like, well, no, you spent years telling us that you needed to monetize a downtown arena for your long-term viability. And that's what we wanted, right? I think when you go through, and I've said this before, okay, and this is just my overall picture of of attendance issues in the National Hockey League. If you look at the teams that have the biggest attendance issues in the NHL, okay, Florida Panthers, Arizona Coyotes, Carolina comes to mind. Ottawa has now unfortunately entered that conversation. What do they all have in common? They don't have downtown arenas. Glendale is like 45 minutes outside of Phoenix. Sunrise, Florida is nowhere near downtown Miami. Canada is nowhere near downtown Ottawa. It's a common thread that I think it's important. I don't know that we bring that up enough, that having a suburban arena isn't ideal. And I think it's tough because if you live in the west end of the city and you live in Stittsville in Canada, I get it. You like going to the game. You like going down Hunt Mar and getting back home in 7 minutes. But that's great. Good for you. What about the rest of us that live in other parts of the city that want to, when I used to travel a lot, right? Like I used to do television and I got to go around all over North America. So I've been to every arena. And it would always fascinate me. I'd go to like Washington or I go to Toronto and I'm like, wow, like these people are taking trains and they're going to the game like in a subway. And it's like, wow, why couldn't we do this in Ottawa? And I think that's what really hurts me is that we saw the sketches for what LeBreton was supposed to be. I don't know that you can put that genie back in the bottle from the public court of opinion. We've seen the sketches. We saw the train station. Like we saw it all, right? Like we saw everything. And so to now go back and say, hey, well, actually, we're going to go in Canada and we're going to have the rink where it is in an adjacent parking lot at Canadian Tire Center. Isn't that exactly what we just said we didn't need? Isn't that what we just spent 5 years debating? So it's disappointing to me. Look, my number one concern is how do we make this thing work in Ottawa long term? My answer is I think we have a downtown arena and we do it in a way that kind of brings everybody on board. But to do this again and tell me it's another 25 years of an arena out in the outskirts, I don't think that's good because you look around the league, I don't think that that's a recipe for success.
I have a question real quick. What's the possibility of OSEG and Eugene Melnick working together? Because I find Lansdowne kind of out of the way. Like it's downtown, but it's kind of down Bank Street. And like Bank Street, if we've been down Bank Street, it's not easy to drive down there. It's generally more of a walking kind of street. What are the chances that we can see just a giant multi-sports complex where we have the football, rugby, like that sports field for all them and a hockey arena for the 67 Senators and whatnot, all down like LeBreton Flats, just one giant sports complex? Is that something that you think could be managed, or is the relationship between the two sides nowhere near working ability?
I would have to say, to answer your question, I would say that there's less than a 0% chance of that happening. In fact, look, I guess you should never say never. You know what? You should never say never. So I'll put it at 0.00001% chance of that happening. I think there's too much of a disconnect there between the two groups for them to all of a sudden get into a sandbox and play nicely together. Got to remember that John Ruddy and his partnership group are actually still involved in a lawsuit over LeBreton Flats with Eugene Melnick. Right? Wasn't it one group sued for $700 million and the other group came back and said, I'm going to sue you for $900 million. So I'm not a business expert, but I don't think active lawsuits are usually a good sign for a business partnership. So I would say
that's true.
Idea of, and you know what, where I agree with you is that Lansdowne is a little bit awkward, but this is Ottawa's issue. I wish we had a train system that ran through the glebe underground, right? Like that had a station at Lansdowne, that had a station in Old Ottawa South, that had a station at South Keys, and kind of we ran it up into Centertown. Like that would be ideal, right? And then you could put, an arena there. I get that, but I don't see a scenario as it's currently constructed where OSEG and the Ottawa Senators get together on any sort of significant partnership.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you bring about like a train going through the glebe, and my first thought is that people who live in the glebe would never allow that to happen. They fought tooth and nail for that Lansdowne construction being an issue. So I don't see, as much as beneficial as it would be, I don't see that ever happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right. What was that group, Friends of Lansdowne, that tried to kind of hold everything back. You're right. Like I'm just saying, like that in an ideal world, there's not very. Again, someone would have to do the article on this or do the research on this. But how many venues of that size? So think of TD Place. It's 25,000 seat stadium. How many of that size are not accessible by what we would consider to be like a system or mass transit? Like it's not that much, right? Like there's not very many. You can probably count on one hand. But again, this is an infrastructure issue that I think plagues Ottawa that goes far beyond our sports teams. I think this is an infrastructure issue that, quite frankly, we need to be connecting the city in different ways. Like we're the only city on the planet, probably in North America, that has a bus system of this magnitude in the year 2020 with the transit way connecting everything. Well, that was all well and fine 30 years ago, but it'd be nice if we got into the 21st century here.
Yeah, and I mean that the train system has had its own issues. I don't agree with how they built the train system, and I think that's caused a lot of problems. But it's been a long time in the making for our train system. But I know. What quick question about the structure of the team and like what's going on in the locker room. Obviously, you guys covering the team last year. Did you kind of see that shift with like DJ Smith and kind of seeing like Tkachuk and Shabbat grow into leaders in that locker room? Is there anything you can tell us about what this team is trying to build and how the players are kind of responding to the challenge?
Look, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? Like, I think it was all great. Last year when they signed Thomas Shabbat, I think that was signed for organizational stability. That was the thing that I think a lot of people looked at and said, yeah, this guy's in it for the long haul. But now, as we talked about this earlier, you guys were asking about has ownership kind of get the consumer confidence back. Don't you kind of feel like the minute that they announced Brady Tkachuk has signed any sort of extension of significance? I don't mean a 1-year deal. I'm not going. You get this guy locked up to 5 years or more. That's the moment where you can say he's all in, Shabbat's all in, and now I feel like the fan base is all in. And so, to me, I think I'm waiting for that. So if you're asking about like kind of where Tkachuk fits into it, I want to see that guy sign a contract extension to know that he believes in the plan and believes in the group. I think you can start to talk about where they go as a group. But right now, I'd have to say, based on the contract situation, this is kind of Thomas Shabbat. I don't know how else you can look at this. He is signed up for an 8-year deal. I think he's getting a lot more pressure on his shoulders when you get an 8x8 contract. It comes with, in the Canadian market, it comes with some pressure and responsibility. I think he's up for the challenge, but I think he's the guy that right now, like if you're asking me today, if they had to name a captain for next season and Brady's contract isn't done, I would say give it to Thomas Shabbat. He's bilingual. He's easygoing. He's he's the right guy to do it. So I think he's all in. I think I want to see how it all plays out with Chuck, and I'd like to think that they can get something done. There's no rush, but I'd like to get something done. And then you can talk about, okay, this team, I don't know what you guys think. In the world, they need to be a Stanley Cup contender in Tim Stützle's entry-level deal. That's what I think. I think before Stützle is out of his ELC and you need to pay that guy, you need at least one season where you can take a run at being a Stanley Cup contender. So this is going to be really important, I think, where you got kind of 2 years, in my opinion, to get the ship righted and hopefully get into that direction.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think with the moves that we've made, seeing that our right side is kind of locked up for the next 3 years, it kind of fits into that plan of, being a playoff contender and like a borderline cup contender within that 3-year mark. I think Dadonov will help a lot with that. That right side, hopefully Batherson kind of starts to progress and lives up to the hype that we've kind of built up around him. Tkachuk takes the next step, signs a long-term deal, and Stützle kind of slots in wherever he slots in, but becomes an impact player. I think it's doable with the way we have things constructed as a team, but it's a matter of can what's on paper produce, and I think that's a big question everyone has.
I think there's a lot of question marks still surrounding, a young team without the veterans kind of surrounding them. I know they just got Dadonov, but that's one guy. I think, if you're looking at a 3-year window where they have to be competitive at the end of it, that's pretty quickly, in my opinion. And I agree with what you said, but I don't know that looking at it right now, I can say with confidence that they're going to be that competitive in 3 years. I hope they make a step this year and they're in, even the mid-20s would be a step forward. But then you've got to take a leap next year. And that's where you have to see them kind of on that playoff bubble. And then the following year being a contender. I know a lot can happen from now to then, but to me, I mean, they still need to do quite a bit. So there's a lot of question marks in there.
Yeah, I mean, that defense is riddled with question marks.
Yeah. Yeah, like I agree with you guys. Like there's no looking at this team and saying, 100% in 2 years they're going to be a cup contender. But that's what we were told, right? That's what the owner said, is that around 2022, 2024, in that window, they're going to be a contender, right? Not just but Stanley Cup contenders, written down on a piece of paper, unparalleled success. Nobody twisted your words. Nobody, did anything that we're, I think it's our job to kind of hold them to that plan, hold them to some degree of accountability. And if you're going to say that you're going to be a Stanley Cup contender in 2022 or 23, like you said, Derek, they can't be languishing in 30th place again. You can't be 30th, 31st, and 30th, and then come back and say, okay, we're still in the rebuild. Well, no, this is the year that I agree with you. If they can even get up to 23rd, 24th overall in the standings, I'm not saying they should be a playoff bubble team this year, but I'm saying you better take a step forward and move up 5 or 6 spots. Get out of that low rent district with Detroit and whoever else is going to be there this season. Get out of there. Move into that next group. Be like those Chicagos and where those teams have been, the Rangers, the last few years, where they've been. Get into that district, and then the following year, I think you should push for a plan. And then the year after that, which again would, I guess, theoretically be Timmy Stutzle's last year of his ELC, that's when you should be a Stanley Cup contender. But like you were saying, Shane, too, there's a lot of questions. Is Enstrom a top 4 guy? What's Lassie Thompson? What's Sanderson? All of these things. These are all there's not a look. Ask any Buffalo Sabres fan about a plan. Ask any Edmonton Oilers fan about a plan. These guys have generational talents on their team, and there's no guarantee of success, right? So this thing is a big roll of the dice, and I guess we're gonna wait and see what happens in the next couple of years.
That's for sure. It's going to be interesting. I think next year is going to be a very big tell. Thompson in his second year, hopefully in North America. Bernard Docker leaving UND, coming to join Ottawa or Belleville. So I think the 21-22 season is going to be the biggest tell of what the direction of this rebuild has taken us. I know Derek wanted to talk about a little bit. We were talking through on Twitter about the situation of what happened the other day with the Arizona prospect. And we wanted to bring it up and see your perspective on the whole situation and kind of just discuss about, because he's at UND and, Ottawa has a very big history with UND players. We have 4 of them currently on the team. And I think it needs to be talked about even as a Sens, part of the Sens because of the UND connection. What's your take on the whole situation?
Yeah, listen, I appreciate the opportunity to speak out on that too, because it's something that we need to correct in the hockey culture. And I think what I'm in the hockey world, I'm tired of minorities or people of color or women being treated as learning examples for young men. Okay, we exist and women don't exist, so that when you're a teenage boy or a young man, that you can go and have some mistake and act in a toxic manner and then it's a learning experience. Like, we don't exist for you to learn how the world works. And I think that's what's disappointing is you look at the story and you ask yourself, did you truly do due diligence if you're the Arizona Coyotes? Did you reach out to the young man who was bullied by the prospect? Did you reach out? Did you really truly understand the scope and the nature of what happened? Because this isn't just a little bit of harmless teasing. This is borderline. I mean, it's criminal behavior. This isn't what you should be doing. And so I think what we're trying to do in the hockey world, and this is where I'm really disappointed that Hockey Diversity Alliance broke up with the National Hockey League, is it's stories like this. It's like I don't love the term toxic masculinity because it does connotations and you get the guys who, no man are like that. And look, I get that. I understand that. So I'm not trying to preach from a pulpit here, but what I'm trying to say is in our sport, there is absolutely a culture that this type of behavior is tolerated and treated as a learning experience. And I think that's the time for that has to end. I think we need to hold young men free of accountability that we haven't done before. And I think for a lot of young men and for a lot of men of any age, that's an uncomfortable conversation. That's an uncomfortable conversation to point at somebody and, you know what, that's wrong. That's not the way we're going to do it. And hockey culture has to change. And, hockey is probably the most archaic sport and moving at a glacial pace realm. And there's a whole bunch of socioeconomic reasons, right, that are kind of behind all of that. And so I looked at that story. I was deeply disappointed. I think all of us know this is the thing that really hurts. It didn't really surprise anybody. And that's the problem. We got to get to a point where those types of stories are not kind of met with, yeah, well, what do you expect out of hockey culture? And this is what we do with hockey. And so that's disappointing. And I hope that we can get to a point where we're not using, like, look, I'll use the Austin Matthews story last year, or whatever it was, last year, 2 years ago, when he had that incident with the security guard who was in Arizona. And everyone was like, oh, come on, man, leave him alone. He's just 22. When you were 22, what were you doing? Well, let's change the conversation here. Like, why are we giving – when did we start giving 20-year-old guys free passes to act in aggressive and toxic ways? I don't know when that started, but it's got to stop now. So I think this is why we got to go into schools. We got to go into young programs. And you know what I would really love, guys? And I apologize for going off here for so long on this. You know what I would love? I would love if Hockey Canada could fold in some sensitivity, inclusion training for every kid who plays hockey under the Hockey Canada umbrella at the age of 8, 9, 10. Bring it in. I, as a coach, I am fortunate enough to coach my daughter playing ringette. I got to take all these courses about concussion training and how to coach young women and stuff. And I'm thinking, why aren't we doing the same thing with the players and teaching them? Like, why are we waiting for these missteps with Coyotes prospects and Austin Matthews? Like, we got to do preventative training here. We got to take preemptive action to stamp this out of the game. And so that's what my hope is, that stories like these become fewer and far between.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Ian, what you said. The other thing I kind of think about, having a mental health background myself, that's where I've worked my whole career. So I kind of think of what the parents were doing here. Like Mitchell Miller's parents, to me, have to take some of the responsibility here. Like, what values are we teaching our children? I know you write for today's parents, and I know this is somewhat off track. But what's your take on that? Do you hold the parents accountable at all, like I do, or do you think it's more on the hockey culture? We lose them?
No, a little bit of lag. I had this issue yesterday when I was.
I think your audio cut out there.
You got him back?
Yeah, a little bit of a lag. I can cut this out. It's fine. So what was the question again, Derek?
Yeah, so I'll repeat it. Can you hear me now, Ian? No.
This is, oh man. Well, we're experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties right now, unfortunately. But I mean, you did bring up a great point, Derek, with the parents. And once Ian,
They're both frozen for me.
oh, of course, love technology until you need it. Oh, and we dropped him.
Yeah, we'll try and hopefully try and get Ian back to answer that. But the question that I asked was just around the parenting of this young man and how much we hold the parents responsible for this kid's actions. We're talking about Mitchell Miller, the 4th-round pick of the Arizona Coyotes, and just how do we hold the parents responsible here? To me, as a parent, you're responsible for teaching values in your children, and this is a kid that was bullying this young black male with developmental disabilities for years. It's something that went on for years, and making racial remarks. So yeah, I was curious to get Ian's response there, but also Shane. I don't know, what you think about that. If you hold them responsible to any degree, or if you think he was kind of old enough to make his own decisions.
For me, it's more of this doesn't just happen. Kids aren't born racist. Kids aren't born seeing color the same way adults do. So yes, I put a lot of the blame on the parents, because I feel like there's definitely some things that I've talked to plenty of people about experience, and if you grow up in a white neighborhood and you grow up in hockey and it's primarily white, and you don't have experience with other people of color, and your parents don't have that kind of experience, you grow up in a very narrow-minded view of the world. You don't have a very broad view of the world, and I feel like it's irresponsible for not to blame the parents. He's not 22. He's still a product of his surroundings. And I think that's the big thing, is that at 14, you're still very much a product of your surroundings, and parents need to be held accountable. But it looks like we have Ian back. Everything good on your end, Ian?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, but both of you froze up completely, and then I couldn't. I know Derek said something about parents, and then it just it dipped out on me. So I apologize for that.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I was on here with because I also do a CFL podcast, and we were talking with Sherrod Baltimore yesterday, and it happened the same thing. It kind of just lagged out. So I think it's something maybe with StreamYard or something. I don't know.
So yeah, I'll just get back into it, Ian, because I'm curious what your take is on this. It was just about, again, just a follow up from the Mitchell Miller thing. So, from myself, I have a mental health background, and I work with families in that field. I wanted your opinion on how much you hold the parents responsible for this. This kid was, I think, 13 or 14 when this started happening, and it went on for years. So to me, I look at it kind of from that perspective, and I kind of ask, what values are we teaching our children, and how much do we hold the parenting responsible here? I know you are a writer for Today's Parents, or that's something that you did along your career lines. So I was curious what your take on that was.
Yeah, you know what, and I think that's just it, right? Like, wouldn't you be? And Derek, you mentioned you have a 9-year-old. Wouldn't you be mortified as a parent if the school contacted you and said, "Hey, Derek, just want to let you know your daughter's been bullying a classmate to the point that it's gotten out of hand, and we felt like we needed to intervene." Wouldn't you be bloody embarrassed as a parent? I know I would. I would. It would mortify me to think that my kids contributed to somebody's negative health, mental health, because of toxic and bullying behavior. Look, I understand. All of us have relationships that fray from time to time, and you have disagreements. But there's a line that's crossed, and it certainly does seem to with the young Miller kid in this story, where this isn't just your typical, you know what, that's kids being kids or boys being boys. No, this was something more toxic and acidic. And I think as parents, you're right. Like, man, that would destroy me to no end to think that my child was involved with that. And then it should make you look in the mirror as a parent, because I think for a lot of these stories, especially when you're dealing with kind of anybody under the age of 18, I think a lot of times it's a reflection of parenting. It really is. I mean, kids are only a product of their environment. You don't learn to use the N-word unless you've heard it before, or you've heard that it's okay to use it, or you feel like it's okay to use it. And that's a reflection on parenting. I think that's the one, our kids are, like I said, a little bit older. They're 16 and 13. But we're right in the throes of that whole social media, cyberbullying, and all of that stuff. And it goes back to instilling values into your kids about respecting others.
Lost him.
I love StreamYard.
You guys have me at all?
We lost you a little bit at the end there, about after like the social media and cyberbullying.
Yeah,
part.
no, I'm sorry. The connection's gone terrible again.
Yeah. This is the first time in like ever since I started using StreamYard that I've had this many issues. With the like I've not had like I've had like 10 people conference calls, and like this has never happened before. But yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that it was the like product of your surroundings, because when you cut out, that was kind of what we were talking about, how like a 14-year-old is very much like the product of their surroundings, and that he must have realized that like things he was saying were okay, because that's kind of where he grew up in. Like he realized that, oh, it's okay for me to say this. Like I've heard, my parents or family members saying this, and no one has corrected them, so it must be okay to say. And that in itself is a problem that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, and I guess my follow-up to you guys too.
That's exactly it.
No. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
My just my follow-up is, where do the Arizona Coyotes go with this? What can they do? They could get this kid to, make a public statement all they want, but it's going to feel forced. Is it not?
It is. And look, I give the Coyotes some credit, right? They have the first ever Latino president of a hockey team there, running the business side of things. So that's important. You got to understand that they're trying to do some things. But now I think this is where it becomes disappointing, is that if you're going to say you did your due diligence, how could you have done your due diligence and not reached out to the victim? That doesn't seem like due diligence to me. That seems like I Googled an article, this came up, and we asked him about it in the combine, and he said he's past that. And that's not due diligence, right? So if the Arizona Coyotes are truly the team that wants to prove that their actions speak louder than words, and that their words don't ring hollow, and that they want to show that they're committed, if I were them, I would be saying that we're going to put this young man, we're putting him in diversity training, and then we're going to tell you every single one of our prospects when we come in camp, we're going to put you through sensitivity, diversity, and training along that. I wonder, why? Again, I'll go back. I put this on Hockey Canada, but I'll go back to junior hockey programs, NCAA programs. Like, you need to be having these young men exposed to victims of assault and abuse coming and speaking to your group so they understand. They understand what the power of these types of actions and incidents have on people. And I think if the Coyotes are serious about this, they would launch their own internal training program for their own prospects and players to say, this is important to us. Diversity and inclusion is important to us. Every single member of the Arizona Coyotes, whether they're on the ice or off the ice, will undergo training. I think too often what happens is somebody has a misstep, and then you're like, you know what? It's time for sensitivity diversity training. No, the time for that is before anything happens. And I think this is what I think they should commit themselves to going forward, is that there will never be another story like this under the Coyotes umbrella.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think, we need to be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to this stuff. And we need to start planning ahead and start implementing all of these trainings.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on all that. It's always about, we need to be more proactive than reactive on almost all kind of things now. And I agree with Ian, this starts at the grassroots levels. If you can get the kids in, 8, 9, yeah, they're young, and people will say, oh, they don't know the difference. That's where you start, because they may not know exactly what's wrong or right. That's the perfect time. They can be molded and kind of learned, like, oh yeah, this is right, this is wrong, this is how you handle certain things. And on top of this situation, there was the one out in Calgary where the video rose of a kid having a seizure, and there's an investigation in that, and that's minor hockey. That's not even like, NHL or junior. That's minor hockey. These kids are like, I think the kids were like 16 when this happened, like in this incident, and like that stuff needs to change. And that changes by introducing this stuff at, the grassroots level at 8, 9 years old, and basically telling kids like, yeah, this isn't how you handle things. This isn't normal behavior. Yeah, your older brother may have done it. Your dad may have done it. And I think it also diversity training for the parents, sensitivity training for the parents. Parents have especially hockey parents have such a bad reputation of, being. So we all see the videos of parents yelling at each other over, a 10-year-old hockey game. That, puts fire, adds fuel to the fire, and that needs to be stopped as well. And I think, if you're part of hockey, Ian said that as a coach, he has to do all this training. If you're part of hockey, if a parent, if you're a manager, whatever, you should also have to go through the training with your child, so you both understand that like this stuff won't be acceptable, and there will be consequences for your actions no matter your age, because this is wrong, and we're going to make sure that you guys understand that this is wrong.
Yeah, and I think what I do, and I'm really fortunate to be part of this this pretty cool group in Ottawa called Man Up, which was actually started by high school men who go to high school here in Ottawa, and it's all about other young men to accountability when it comes to domestic violence, sexual assault, and I've been going to the schools and talk to a lot of young men. And what I try and tell them is that, we're actually trying to help you out. Like we're giving you training so that when you go on to your, professional career, like this type of behavior isn't tolerated in a business setting. Like imagine if you guys went to your jobs, if you work in an office, did some of these things in the office, you'd be fired, and, you'd probably be slapped with a harassment suit, and that would be that. But sometimes this behavior goes on in schools. Sometimes this behavior goes on in locker rooms, and we don't have that same degree of accountability. Like it's almost like, well, we do in business world, you can't do that, but in school and in youth sports, we can have this stuff going on. And I think that's what we need to try and teach these young men, is that like we're trying to just set the tone for you of what society has moved towards, right? And this isn't your dad's day or your uncle's day or your grandpa's day. That day is gone. I think if we can move towards these conversations, and that's where I think sports has this great opportunity, right? Like sports can impact young people in a way that politics can't and religion can't, but sports can. That's why I'm always a big believer in, can we use this as a vehicle to teach kids values? It has nothing to do with politics, has nothing to do with religion, just about respecting other human beings. And I think that's where team sports can be so valuable. And that's, kind of pie in the sky rainbow outlook would be like, wouldn't it be great if we could all, teammates and use sports as a backdrop?
Yeah, that's 100% for sure. I mean, this is a conversation we need to continue to have, and we can have for hours and talk about different ways to put an end to the negativity around hockey culture. But we fortunately, we do have to move on. And we were talking about jerseys earlier, and we mentioned that Dallas was releasing their jersey. They just did, and they brought back. Well, they introduced glow in the dark neon green. It's all black with glow in the dark neon green logo, stripes, everything. It's something else. It's different, and I mean, NHL's trying to be different. But we talked about the reverse retros earlier in the show. Ian, I just had to ask you, what kind of reverse retro would you want Ottawa to do if we were going to do it, or when we're going to do it?
Okay, so I gotta apologize. I heard nothing that you said. I heard nothing.
Okay. So Derek and I were talking about the reverse retros that have been leaked the last couple of days. What reverse retro do you want Ottawa to do, or what kind of concept would you like to see them come up with?
Honestly, it's all. I apologize. Like, am I sounding clear? Because it's pure garbled on. I can't make out a word you're saying. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's cutting in and out for you, but still audible.
Want me to give it a shot? Maybe, I don't know if he can hear me better.
Maybe go for it.
So Shane was asking. The league is coming out with reverse retro jerseys. So we are talking about what that potentially could look like for Ottawa.
All I know, this is something about a jersey. That's all I can hear.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to talk to a StreamYard. I'm assuming you're on your phone, right, Ian?
I don't know.
Oh God.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't hear anything you're saying.
It's okay. I think StreamYard is. I think this is StreamYard's telling us, our systems are going crap. I think we'll we'll skip the jersey. We got to finish up the. We got a new segment here. It's over under. We introduced it last week. We did Matt Murray. This week we're going to look at Dadonov and what his over under for his point total will be. I'm going to say I'm putting the over under at 50.5 points. He'll probably lead the Senators in points. Ian, if you can hear us, where do you think Dadonov point total will be next season?
Okay, so all I heard was Dadonov and points. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you're asking me for a points projection from Evgeny Dadonov. So I'm hoping that that's what you asked. I'm going to roll the dice if that's what you asked. And I'm going to say that I think a 65-point season is probably what you can expect out of him. Like, I think if you get 25 goals and 40 assists out of Dadonov, we're not going to have Barbie at Huberdeau. So, he's probably not going to be a 65-point guy. But, 3 straight 25-goal seasons lead me to believe that he is probably in that 20 to 25-goal range and probably the 60 to 65-point range. So I think that's a safe bet. Like, if I'm picking who's going to lead them in scoring, I'd go with him.
And Derek, where are you at?
Yeah, pretty similar to what Ian said. I'm not going to go as high, like 65 points. I think that would be phenomenal if Dadonov puts up 65 points, but definitely over the 50. Did you have 50.5 as your number?
50.5.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the over on that as well. I think Dadonov will be their leading scorer this season. I can see him in the 60-point range for sure. He is away from Barkov and Huberdeau. I think that could have an impact. But looking at how he scores goals, he likes that bumper spot. He likes to tip pucks in front, and he can get to the gritty areas in front of the net. So I like his point projection. He's also subtly good at playmaking. So I see him in the 60-point range as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I would take the over as well, and I'd take him as well being the leading point getter. If you had to bet on who would lead Ottawa in points, Dadonov would be the way to go. But, that's how we're going to end this episode on the Dadonov hype train. We had a good discussion with Ian. And again, Ian, thank you for coming on. You can catch him on TSN 1200 between 2 and 6 on the drive. You can also find him on Instagram or Twitter at Ian_Mendes. So thank you, Ian, for coming on. It was a pleasure having you, and hopefully we can have you on when there's a season announced.
Well, thanks for having me. I don't know if you still got me or not. I think sounded like you were wrapping up there, but appreciate you guys thinking of me and having me on. And it was nice to be a guest on Derek's show for a change. So that was nice. A little role reversal there. But anytime you guys need anything, you let me know. Reach out. You guys obviously have my contact info. Reach out. Would love to be a guest again, and hopefully we get a better internet connection next time.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you, Ian, for coming on. Derek as well. Thank you for being part of this. You can find him at DLee075 on Twitter. He's a Sens contributor. Great articles. And again, if you're not sure what Ian's talking about in terms of being roles reversed, he was on TSN 1200 a couple of weeks ago talking about our good friend Eric, who tragically passed away at the end of August in Calgary. Hearts out to his family through all this. Great young Sens fan. He would have loved the draft. Not gonna lie, he probably have already bought one of the jerseys. But yeah, no. Thank you, Derek, for coming on again. Hopefully, we'll have you on sometime this weekend for another episode. You can find us at Sens Hour Podcast, Sens_Hour, on Twitter and Instagram. Myself at Shane_Ryan97. Thank you guys very much for listening. Thank you again, Ian, for coming on, and Derek. We'll talk soon. Have a great one, guys, and stay safe out there. Enjoy the Halloween.
Thanks, guys.